Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of MILF marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. This is Hearts and Stripes, and we have a special guest for you today. As you know, this month is all about health and wellness and living an active lifestyle and how that impacts your military marriage. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce to you Amy Schweizer. Hello, Amy, to everyone out there.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Bree. Thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, so Amy, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and share your story.
Sure. So I am a United States Marine Corps spouse. We're going on this year will mark 10 years of marriage, which seems kind of crazy for us, but we'll be hitting with 10 years. Thank you. We've worked hard for that 10 years, I'll tell you. So we're hitting that 10 years. We have 3 little boys, so they are turning 3, 5, and 8 this year. So we are definitely have a very active and loud household.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're currently in North Carolina, so we have had about 4 PCSs since we've been married. So he's been in for 18 years, but we've just been married about that 10. So we've gone from Illinois, where we met, to Camp Pendleton, California, then on to Okinawa, Japan. Then we just left the beautiful state of Hawaii. We were there for 3 years, and now we loved it. And now back in North Carolina, which is pretty similar to Illinois and Indiana, where he's from. So kind of feel like we're back home. Our families are super excited now that we're only a handful of hours flight away versus 12 or a day and, $3,000 per ticket later. So it's been nice to come back around. And we again, are in North Carolina now. We've just been here about 4 months. And so I know you wanted me to get into a little bit of my background with sports and active and healthy lifestyle. So I'll jump into a little bit of that. I've been active my whole life. My parents were active, our families were, so we're always at the ball fields and playing. And my favorite sport, which I didn't know, is soccer. I didn't start playing until I was 16 because in my town, a small town in Illinois, it just wasn't big. Soccer in general wasn't big, even in the country. At that point, soccer, in the States at all, soccer really wasn't big at that point. And so certainly not for girls at that point. So when I was 16, it was actually the first time they ever had a girls' soccer team and at our high school. And so they kind of just lobbied some of the people who were already athletes and said, hey, you guys want to play soccer? And I literally had never touched a ball before in my life. And I'm like, sure, I can run fast. I'll play soccer. And lo and behold, it ended up being the absolute, my favorite sport, the one I still love to play to this day. And I've had so many good experiences through it. So meeting some of my best friends who we still are best friends. I was able to play for the Cincinnati Lady Hawks, which was a professional team in the United Soccer Leagues, which back in the day was the highest level women could play. So that was super fun. I finished out my senior year of college, traveling back and forth from Ohio to my school in Illinois and different games. Even I remember on my graduation day, I had to drive throughout the night because I had a game the night before and get there for graduation. So it's definitely taken me quite a few places. So soccer's been a big part. After leaving college, I went on to earn my master's degree in sport management. And while doing that, I had a really fun experience. I got to intern with the Philadelphia 76ers professional basketball team.
Nice.
And I'm a pretty short person, so I like to say 5'1.5".
Me too. Yes.
So standing next to some of those players was pretty comical because they
Right.
truly were. I felt like at least 4 of me tall. So I got to do that. I got to get some intern time with the Philadelphia Kicks, which was the professional indoor soccer team there. So it was fun being on the business side of things because I've kind of been on the player side of things. So, soccer, sports, just always been a big part of my life. And even now, I still play in adult rec soccer leagues. So wherever we move, I always end up finding a team to play with, and always the new kid on the team.
Right.
The whole military life, so I don't know if that changes, but I always find a good group of people to play with. And I'm 37 going on 38, and I think I've still got it. There's some times that my body says otherwise, and it doesn't quite work out like I thought, but it's a lot of fun.
That is awesome. So how did that transition? I mean, we can unpack that for days. Like that's a whole nother segment in itself. You're a professional athlete, you're living the dream, you're working with professional teams, and I get it as a short person. I'm sure that was like super intimidating working with those players. But how much knowledge were you bringing to the table? Like that was awesome because you were once the athlete and now you're on the other side of it, the business end. That was an amazing career. So how did you transition from those high points into being a military spouse?
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Bree, when you said those high points, because I was always a career-minded person, and that was my goal. And if I had a husband, great, he would enhance my life, but I was going to have my life and my career. And so becoming a military spouse, and I hate for this to sound bad, and I don't feel this way anymore, but initially I went from a high point to a low point. I was riding the high of my career and wedding, and oh, well, he'll be deployed 4 months after you get married. Oh, what? Not a big deal. I didn't realize what that meant.
Right,
oh, I love it. I'm so excited, and we're moving to California, and look at all this fun stuff. And that kind of came to a halt, and particularly my career. And so it was a learning process for myself. Completely, to have to transition my priorities for at least a while there, and to recognize that my marriage was a blessing, even though it didn't look like what I thought a marriage or my marriage, my picturesque marriage was going to be. Because again, I didn't know. You don't know what a military marriage is like until you're in it, and so you don't know the sacrifices that come with that. So it was a transition, and I was able to kind of turn that around. So when we got to Okinawa, another spouse had was coaching some soccer, and somehow she and I got connected, and she's like, well, do you want to do this? I'm PCSing, and I was pregnant with my second, I think, at the time. I'm like, not really. That's not what I was intending to do.
Right.
And anyhow, lo and behold, so I was like, fine, she left. So I didn't want the kids not to have anything. So I coached the handful of kids that she had, and then turned it into, okay, well, this could be a job for me. I, certainly wasn't ideal and what I was used to or looking for. However, I ended up turning that into a full-fledged program. And now you may have heard of it. It's called Tiny Troop Soccer. And been able to expand that to quite a few bases. We're at over 30 bases now.
That is so awesome.
There was definitely that transition, but it's worked out.
I think that is fantastic. And it's like you had that active lifestyle. Soccer was such a big part of your life. And oftentimes we think of, the active duty member is like the active one because they have to be fit to fight and PT tests, and they're the ones who are going on those mile runs and all that. But it was really important for you to kind of maintain that. And even though you took a break based off of the transition in your life, how awesome is that you were able to get back into it, unbeknownst to you, what the future would hold, that you'd go from being that professional athlete to now coaching what could be our next generation of professional athletes, and just kind of inspiring them and instilling a lot of your life lessons in there. That's fantastic.
It is. And I love that it's come full circle. And, again, it wasn't what I pictured or that I had dreamt, but everything, all your experiences prepare you for other upcoming experiences in your
Right.
life. I've been able to take, my playing experience, the business side of sports, and put that into Tiny Troop Soccer. So it's been really neat to see how that's blossomed. And I always tell my coaching staff, our military kids, they don't have the same team they grew up with their whole lives. Like some of us,
Right.
We've played on these same teams for 15 years, and you have the pictures from when you were 4 to when you were 18, graduating high school with the same team. And, they don't get that. And so I tell my coaches, we can't give our kids that same team. However, they can always remember that they were on a Tiny Troops team, and they're going to remember, oh yeah, and at this base I was on Tiny Troops and that base. So we get to be their common denominator. We get to be their constant, especially as we've expanded, that they can go from one base to another and feel like they're a part of a team too.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love that continuity that can continue with the child, because that really helps the family kind of stay grounded and have something to look forward to even as we move from location to location. And also just in a marriage as well, it really helps to have that kind of stability and things to kind of look forward to even as things go in transition. I'm sure even you being a player, you're an awesome team player, you take that into your marriage. So if you could share with us maybe three tips or advice that you may have for our military married couples.
Sure. So one thing I would say that kind of seems obvious, but you still have to make a point to do it, is to simply be active together. So before having kids, for us, that looked like taking the dogs for a walk every night after dinner, going for a hike. So a lot of, I believe it's the state parks that are free for military. So
Oh,
you can
yeah.
get that pass and you have that free access to all the state parks. So we were in California, so we went and adventured to a lot of those. As we started having kids, walk the kids to the park. It starts to become a family activity where they're getting in the exercise too. And if you actually play with them when you get there, which of course you don't have to always,
Right.
sometimes if you, a game of tag is about, that's some killer cardio for you right there with
Yeah.
kids, and the whole playground jumps in with you. So just doing those things together, and make a point of being able to do those. I would also say the second advice is to pay attention to your emotional health. I know that doesn't necessarily have to do with activity, which for me it does. I can tell when things are getting kind of stressed that I need to go take a run. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
as military families, we find ourselves away from home, maybe a handful of friends. A lot of times you're single parenting if you have kids, and those are challenging things. Those are stressors, even though we're, quote, kind of used to them. Those are stressors in your lives. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to take stock of how you're feeling as an individual and as the marriage unit. And seek counseling if you think there's some things that you guys need to chat about, or even just yourself. And sometimes there's that stigma around counseling, and I'm glad that it's dissipating in
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
late years. But I myself, just within the last 5 years, went to a counselor for the first time ever. And I always thought, well, I have it together and I don't need to go talk to somebody. And what would I even talk to somebody about? And Military One Source is a great resource. They can connect you with a counselor in your area. They don't take the service members' information. You get a handful of free sessions, or even if not, they're just a good resource to start looking, and you can seek out ones by yourself. But I did that. And when I called and was initially talking to the counselor, I said, well, I'm a military spouse and we just moved and I'm pregnant and we don't have a house yet, but it's fine. And she's like, in that initial conversation, she said, stop discounting all that. That's big stuff. You don't have to just be okay with it. Let's talk through this. And so I went to see her one time, Bree, and after that first time, I felt 1,000% better. And even now, we say, I couldn't tell you what we talked about, but I think maybe getting to talk to someone, to get it all out. So anyhow, and then my husband did come in on those. So we probably only did 5 total. And it did make a difference in our marriage. It kind of let us get things out on a neutral ground, gave us some insight from someone who had more experience. And so that was important to our emotional health.
Absolutely.
Getting plugged into a faith-based community is huge for us. Our emotional, spiritual health. And that's, every duty station we go to, and that's a task. You go to one, first you get your Facebook scouring, like, here's the type of church I'm looking for. And so you find a church, try that out for a couple weeks, go try another one, maybe circle back to the first one for a couple weeks, and you're trying a new one. So sometimes, every once in a while you're lucky on that first try, but sometimes you're 6 months in and still trying to, pinpoint which one you're going to head to. Because I think it's definitely worth that search to get that support and have that community. And a lot of times, because you're in military towns, they have extra support groups or classes or dinners for spouses and married military couples. So I think those are big things. And especially, I think it's important to pay attention to your emotional health when those big stressors are coming, like deployment and PCSs. Make sure you're recognizing that in yourself and preparing. I know for me personally, I was telling one of my best friends, I said, I'm feeling a little stressed and discouraged and just things don't feel right. And she's like, well, have you guys found a church yet? And I'm like, well, we haven't settled on one. Well, are you in a MOPS group, the Mothers of Preschoolers? Well, I haven't joined one yet. Have you found a soccer team to play on? Well, not yet. She's like, you need those things. So get prepared. She's like, you need those things to feel all right and for your emotional health to go well. So anyhow, that would be my second tip, would just pay attention to your emotional health. My third tip would be make time for yourself. And I know that sounds kind of contradictory to the marriage part, but marriage is a lot of give, particularly a military marriage. And that's from both sides, not just from the spouse side, but marriage is a lot of give. And you need some time away to stay connected to yourself and to recharge, just to recharge. And so I always say, find things that you love. So again, for me, clearly, I still love playing soccer. So I always find, I Google the local parks and recs and call them sometimes and say, hey, do you have an adult league? Or Google the city name I'm in and adult soccer and see what pops up. And you're probably going to be the new kid, like I said, on the block all the time. It's not always the most comfortable situation, but you get out and do that. Or for my husband, he loves to fish. So he found lakes nearby, and we got him a kayak, that he can take out. So just things that you enjoy doing, that you can get some of that alone time. And then supporting the spouse when they do that. So whether, he or she has to leave work a half hour one day early so you can get to the game or get to the class you like at the gym, or it was his turn to put the kids to bed, but I know he wants to go fishing for the afternoon, so I'm taking a double duty night. You know, make
Mm-hmm.
sure you're supporting each other so that and not giving any of those guilt feelings, you know, like
Right.
truly supporting and letting them have that time so then they can, like I said, just touch base with themselves, and that makes them um, you know, more clear themselves, and then they're able
Right.
to plug back into the marriage easier too.
Yeah, Amy, those were fantastic. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like, just finding time for yourself, and I think that's often an overlooked area, even
Yeah.
just because when you are at your 100%, people don't realize when you're at 100, he or she is at 100, like, you guys are better together, the team is stronger, your marriage is stronger. So that's so vital for you to make that time for one another. And then emotional health, I completely agree with you on that as well. It really does fall right in there with health and wellness, because if you aren't feeling well emotionally, more than likely you're not going to want to run. You're not going to want to be active. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
want to do those things to improve your health and have a longer life span, and ensuring that you're, strong and feeling good, because you're not feeling good. So you don't want to do anything to get better. But knowing yourself is such a huge part of that, because when you know yourself, you know what will be a pick me up. And I love that you circle back to soccer, of course. Like, that brings you joy, or that faith based community brings you joy, so that you can not being connected, and that will affect you and your emotional health. And being active together, absolutely, I agree. I know I was kind of in a rut for a little bit after having little ones, and
Mm-hmm.
it took my husband and I going to the gym together and going to the Y or going on base
Mm-hmm.
together to really kickstart me in this mode of, okay, now I can go and do this on my own. But I just enjoyed it more when it was something that we did together. It was just more fun, even as a family, which is why I love that you noted, like, free parks. We get that perk, let's use it, take the family out, get everybody involved, especially when it comes to our tiny troops. Get them involved, get them active now, so that they can live healthy lifestyles and they can mimic what they're seeing their parents doing. So those are some fantastic tips.
Yes, thanks, Brie. And that's so important that you said to mimic what their parents are doing. You know, you have to set that example. They're going to do what you do. They want to do what they see you do. So, you know, if you're outside kicking the ball around, they're going to want to come outside with you and kick the ball around. Or and like you said, you don't have to have money to do these things. There's so many free things you can do just in your yard or you know, I love sharing this app because a lot of parents I've seen haven't heard of it. It's called Go Noodle, and it's
Oh,
for the kids, but it's an activity app, and the kids are. It's all these fun songs and movements, and I could probably sing you about 10 of them. They're super catchy, but the kids are getting that activity that's required, that they need to get the physicalness out, to, you know, let out some emotional and heavy stuff, since they can't say, well, I'm upset today, or I'm mad that dad's gone, or whatever it is. You know, that
yeah.
the physical activity is so important for not only us as adults, but also the kids. So
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to link that in the show notes. Go Noodle for our kids to be active. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. But
yeah, of
before I
course.
let you go, I need you to let everyone know how can they connect with you? How can they connect if they want to maybe be someone who works for Tiny Troops, or find something for their child to get plugged into? Share all of that social media so that everyone can connect.
Sure. So our website is www.tinytroopssoccer.com. So that is two S's between troops and soccer. So you can head to that, find out information, find the locations we are. If you're interested in coaching, we simply ask that you have soccer playing experience at some point, preferably experience working with children, a reliable schedule. So you can always head to our website and let us know, or you can send us a message on our Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/Tiny Troop Soccer. You can always touch base. Myself or my staff would answer a message there. And in regards to coaching, we are looking to expand to as many bases as we can. We really want to serve our kids and be that constant that I was talking about earlier for them. And they have so many things that change. We want to be something that's consistent. So we're looking to open near as many bases as we can. So if anyone's interested, feel free, to reach out to me on Facebook. We also have Instagram, the Tiny Troop Soccer there. And then you can find me on LinkedIn too.
That is fantastic. So everyone, check out the show notes, head on over to their social media pages, Tiny Troop Soccer. Amy, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for this time and sharing this heart to heart.
Thanks, Bree.
Okay, everyone, you know what time it is. It is time to EYS, earn your stripes. So Amy gave some fantastic examples of how we can be active with our spouses. I encourage you to shake off that funk. I know you made that New Year's resolution that you were going to get in shape. Come on, it's February. Let's keep it going. Let's get out there. Let's be active with our spouse. Let's find something that we can enjoy doing. Maybe running, just something to stay active together. Come on, EYS. Let's go. Grab your sneakers. This podcast is sponsored by B. Carroll Events for wedding and event planning and design. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few and the proud that aim high and are forged by love. Born ready. We are Mill Marriage Strong.